All right, guys, welcome to the Occasional Barista. My name is Chris, and today we have a special guest coming all the way from California. And
Giving me a little street cred.
yeah. Yeah, so if you want to introduce yourself and where you're from and what shop you work at.
Right on. Well, my name is Chris McColl. I currently manage two locations, or one upcoming actually, for Coffee Dose, originally here in Costa Mesa. Small coffee bar partnered inside a hair salon, so a super unique concept. A lot of fun, very interesting. Been in coffee since 2013, actually.
Dang.
Yeah. Got my start, in the second wave coffee movement, or I would say, I guess, the end of it, really, with Pete's Coffee. So that was very exciting.
Was that your first coffee job?
Yeah, it was. Besides, being the office assistant and having to make a good cup of Folgers. I definitely dialed that one into
some Mr. Coffee. Yeah, was that your first machine you learned on? Is that what it was?
No, I remember my first experience with coffee as a kid. My dad drank coffee all the time, and I always wondered what it was. And he's like, just try it, whether it was beer or coffee or whiskey, and tried it. Coffee was bad, but I was like, I want to be like my dad and drink coffee, so I better learn how to like this crap.
Yeah. And I would say in regards to it, because you kind of already went into it, so you said it was during the second wave of coffees.
Yeah, I would say it was definitely the end of the second wave. I think the end of the second wave has been coming for quite some time. As we see all the transitions and changes that second wave shops have made. Starbucks trying to keep up with the times, but
the whole Reserve project.
Yeah, the Reserve and the Roaster. I mean, obviously the success from that is monumental for, I guess you can say, the industry as a whole, and also for them. So that's cool. But yeah, I started at Pete's Coffee, and I'm not even an actual Pete's Coffee. I worked for a company called Specialties.
Okay.
They are, I want to say they have special partnerships with the Irvine companies.
All right.
So they pop up in essentially these business parks, because they're like a little cafeteria with Pete's Coffee inside.
Okay.
So it was one of those franchise bars. It wasn't actual Pete's Coffee, but it was like, we're going to pay for the licensing of the name, and we'll serve the drinks and stuff like that. So
perfect.
Yeah. That was definitely an interesting experience, because you don't get the same level of training or dedication. You don't get to meet and learn the structure of the actual company, but it was still enough to get me excited, which was cool.
And then before you even got that job, any experience into coffee?
No, not at all. And I had no idea, what I wanted to do after high school. And it got to a point where I was kind of recruited into Specialties. I was managing a Hawaiian barbecue restaurant and managing Blockbuster at the same time. And we had this regular who would come down.
How old are you, man?
I know, dude, ancient.
Yeah.
Blockbuster still lives on.
Oh, okay.
I think they still have one location that's family owned in Oregon.
Oh my gosh.
And it is an experience.
There we go.
In Bend, actually.
In Bend, Oregon?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I was managing Blockbuster. It was great. We had a regular, this woman that always came in and just always gave me kudos for my service and hospitality, and then she's like, I want you to come work for the company I work for. I'm part of the HR team, and you would work really well, and there's lots of cool spots that you can work at. And so our Hawaiian barbecue restaurant just magically closed one day. We showed up to work, and they're like, well, this is actually your last day of normal work, and the next 2 weeks we're going to spend cleaning.
That's always fun, right? Yeah, always fun.
If you want to keep your job, you can just clean for the next 2 weeks. We were preparing for the new business owners, so immediately I reached out to the woman, Adriana, and I was like, I want to come and work at Specialties. How do I do it?
Yeah. And then, because a lot of people, they feel there's this barrier, or especially with now quote unquote the third wave, it's very pretentious and everything, but do you still feel people can go from that where you came from and still walk into coffee shops today?
It's an ongoing struggle for both baristas and other industry professionals that we're trying to get across to the general population, that making coffee, really good specialty coffee, is not something you can jump into. There's such a burden of upfront knowledge, just learning and figuring out what coffee is and why we do the things we do with coffee. And it starts to make sense very quickly, but you still have to be at least semi-acclimated to coffee as a whole. If you've never, even brewed a pot of coffee, and you come into my shop and I start training you on espresso extraction, you're like, over your head, you're like, this black magic science, what is this stuff? So that's always a lot of fun to teach people, but it definitely helps. I love to hire baristas that are stuck in second wave.
Yeah.
You know, baristas that have worked at Starbucks, worked at Pete's Coffee. They have actually tried these third wave shops or other shops that are similar, and they're like, I want to get into that. Yeah. That's like the next step that makes sense to me. So those are the people that I look for, and generally the easiest to mold.
Well, I was gonna say that better be the case because that's why I got hired. For many people who don't know, he was my first manager, and how I got into coffee myself. And again, that was just coming from like I knew I liked coffee shops. Yeah. I didn't know if necessarily I liked specialty coffee, but I knew I liked coffee shops. And then you guys were the ones who like kind of gave me that chance to like get into coffee. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, you know, you can do one of two routes. You know, you can kind of self-develop the skills, whether you do it at home or you ask for like some free time or get involved in some classes or education somewhere, or just relationship. Yeah. You know, you were a guy that was in our shop almost daily, got the same thing most days, and it got to a point where I was like, well, we need to hire some people that, you know, vibe with us really well. That was most important. I was like, this guy's in here every day. I mean, the least he can do is start getting a discount on what he buys.
That's the main reason why you applied, right? Yeah.
I mean, first and foremost, in coffee, it's a service business. It's a service industry. It's all about hospitality, and I think knowledge and everything coffee related comes second. Because if you can't make people feel welcome, if you can't work well with a team, those are two, you know, make or break factors for employees and for businesses as a whole. So that was the first thing that you always look for, is like, could we actually work with this person? Are they going to fit well into our space? Are they going to be able to do, you know, the tasks set at hand? So I met plenty of coffee people that I was like, wow, you make great coffee, but you're a jerk.
Service is horrible. Suck. Yeah, nobody's going to go to you.
You know, you're not reliable or professional or anything like that. And that sucks, because it's like, I want somebody to have that knowledge and to be able to jump in, but not at the cost of our customers. You know?
So, like, in regards to it, clearly, like, what you're trying to say, too, is, like, when there's a barista, there's way more than just pure skill.
100%.
Way more than...
Yeah, bringing it back, it's not an entry-level job. And it has been looked at that for so long. I mean, I think coffee is not the only victim of this mentality, but being a bartender, you know, even working in food service. Yeah. Like, if you're actually in a high-volume restaurant, not Denny's, but... You know, back when Denny's was in its prime, high volume Denny's, like a breakfast or brunch. I mean, you've got to be organized, you've got to be efficient, you've got to have skills and be able to pay attention to detail. So people are like, yeah, you know, anybody can just become a chef in a kitchen, but it's like, you could do that at McDonald's, but when you want to go and work at like a nice $20 a plate restaurant, you got to be talented. Unfortunately, it's becoming a little bit easier to, like I said, self-develop those skills or to acquire them through proper education. But yeah, coffee is the victim, just like I think most closely the bartending scene and even craft brewing for beer and such.
So in regards to like that natural progression, of course you're saying like you can now self-teach yourself. There's tons of resources out there
tons
for you.
of them. I mean, you got podcasts of all sorts and shapes and sizes. I know, right? Just shameless plug for the Occasional Barista. I mean, I listen to them on the daily too. There's always knowledge that you can find in coffee. One of the reasons why I find it super exciting. But podcasts, there's lots of professionals that are popping up. Like I Map It Forward. They're mapping out how to essentially become a career barista. And not just a career barista. They branch into shop owning, into marketing.